Hello and welcome to another episode of Seddon and Lacey's Comic Stash. And it is that time of the month for news. But
And future treats as well.
yes, and new things to look at and go,
News and
ooh.
solicitations.
So, as is tradition, shall we go off to our corners?
Let's do this.
Let's get in the fucking reading corner.
Get in the corner. Get in the corner. Don't look at me. Just get in the corner. Don't look at me. So we've been in the corner, not looking at each other. What have we been doing in our corners whilst not looking at each other?
Well, I've been looking at my comics. That's what I've been doing. That's what you've been up to.
Oh. Let's just say I did look at some comics and let's go with that.
So my reading corner this week has been a four-part Lobo series from 1990. After reading that one hit of Lobo for the Christmassy ones, I was like, oh, I'm tempted to go find some more. And yeah, there's a little four issue run, very fun, very violent. So Lobo is contracted to protect someone and take them to a police state. Turns out the person who's got to go and protect is the writer of a book that tells all of Lobo's truths because it was Lobo's teacher when he was at school.
I taught the little Bastiche everything he knew.
And you then get Cannonball Run-esque levels of multiple different groups all trying to get to Lobo and stop Lobo because they all want to kill Lobo as Lobo tries to deliver the package, as well as also, being Lobo and not, conforming and wanting to get drunk and kill things. Really, really fun for the little run for this character, and I am very, very interested in definitely jumping into more Lobo after this. This was
Well, I think when we spoke about him last time, I said like he's a character that I'm uber aware of because obviously he has got a very distinct visual, hasn't he? And I
yeah,
remember him being massive, like really kind of being, I guess, the poster child for DC during that period. Like he really was. But I just never read any of his stuff, and I imagine like this would be prime time of me reading it, and probably the sort of thing that did push him to the forefront. You kind of had me at Cannonball Run. But now that I said that out loud, now you can put any old tit in front of me and compare it to Cannonball Run, and I'm in. But yeah, I like the idea of that. I kind of, I've always been a bit of a fan of those sort of multi-character caper sort of things where like hijinks ensue and everyone's chasing everyone, and I'm guessing it's got lots of action, lots of kind of comic book violence, and lots of twists and
yes,
turns of yeah. It's something that I probably would add to the DC Ultra list because it does feel like a real gap in my comic book reading knowledge, especially as he was such a big character at that time when I was reading comics or coming into comics, should I say?
yeah. It's one of those of I'd obviously seen pictures of him and gone, oh, that guy looks cool, but never gone anywhere with it. And I said it was just that random one hit Christmas one that was like, fuck it, let's have a look. And yeah, I am definitely in for more of Lobo. The problem seems to be that he doesn't have a lot of his own runs. He seems to be the
Yeah,
villain in a lot of other people's stuff.
yeah, and I
So
know
I think
he
it's a lot of
does like
Superman and things like
does a
that.
lot of guest stars, doesn't he? And I think I want to say it's one of the Legion series where I think he is. I'm going to say part of the team, but probably not part of the team, but is around the team enough to be considered a regular character in it.
Yeah, so definitely on the hunt for more of that. Next is the first trade of the Immortal Hulk. After you badgering on about it as much as you have,
It's because it's awesome.
it is very, very good, and
Yeah.
yeah, smashed through those really quickly. I am definitely going to carry on with more of these. These are very good.
Yeah, art and writing, isn't it? That's the
Yeah,
thing. the visual style of it really helps set the mood of what the writing's doing, and vice versa, doesn't it? Like
Yeah,
you pick up that, and I think we said it on I can't remember if it's the last episode or the episode before, when we had Will on, and Will was talking about World War Hulk. And I think more traditionally in a lot of the Hulk stuff, you are used to it being, I mean, it's green, so it kind of stands out in the panel, but it more being this Hulk smash action movie kind of art style and storytelling. And here, the storytelling leans a lot into kind of a darker, moodier horror style, and that art comes with it, doesn't it?
yeah. And also have done the first trade of Nice House on the Lake.
It's almost like someone's had the week off work, isn't it?
It is, I know.
Yeah.
It's amazing what happens when, you have
It's
some
amazing
free
how
time.
fun life can be when you're not
You,
doing something that is absolute drudgery.
you're not doing 40 hours a week in front of a
Yeah,
computer for the
yeah,
man.
yeah. The man.
Oh my fucking Jesus. This, obviously, I've not finished it. And I will say right now, the last part of the second trade is now on the app. So
It,
a full show will be coming.
it's been a long, I want to say, 8 month wait for me, because I think I read that first trade while they were having their hiatus of about 4 months.
Yeah.
So I not only had kind of that gap, but then the issues coming out, and it has felt like an eternity, because I loved. Well, it was my number two, wasn't it? Of things I'd read last year. So really, really hope it sticks to landing.
Yeah.
But I guess, like all things, that's hopefully, even if it doesn't, the ride was still good enough to keep it high up on the list.
Yeah. As I said, so far, this is the best thing I've read this year. And I'm going to expect that it'll be in the top end for the end of the year awards when we come to them. As long as they don't, fuck it up in the last bit. But so
It'll be
far,
It'll be
this
Bobby in Dallas. Someone will wake up, it was all a dream, and we'll go, oh, bugger. We attached our wagon to the wrong, works a cart to the wrong wagon there, and we've fallen in love with something that ultimately was pup.
yeah.
But I have high hopes. From what we've seen so far, I can't imagine it will go wrong.
No, and this needs to be a TV show. Someone needs to pick this up.
Yes, it does feel like that, doesn't it? It feels like an HBO Max, or I don't know, any of those stations that are willing to retain a darkness to its product.
Yeah, a
God, I'll even
Fox or
take a
something like that.
Shudder original or something like that if they'd be willing to do it.
Yeah, but that is
But
my corner.
what I was going to say though, well, before we move on, but without saying anything more on that, I would say for viewers, expect a show very soon for the whole kit and caboodle, the whole 12 issue run. So, and we'll pick up a little bit more on the Nice House on the Lake.
Yes. So what have you been up to in your corner?
Um, uh, as I said, reading and stuff, looking at things. No, I'm just going to pick up on something you talked about, at least in the last couple of episodes. I also read the first 6 issues of The Punisher by Jason Aaron. I was quite interested in the premise as you kind of put it across, and I'm pleased to say I did enjoy it. I, the Punisher over the years has had lots of series where they've dramatically changed him. In fact, I think he comes on to this one after his last series being him being War Machine, so having Iron Man esque armor.
Yeah.
So we often do things like this with him, and making him attached to the Hand, or basically he is in charge, isn't he? He's the Beast, or
Yeah.
sorry, he's working for the Beast. I was interested to see how well it come across, and I think what it does really well is it's interestingly non-committal with that. So you are actually seeing that at some points it is Maisie to his benefit, and his way does fit a lot of what the Hand does. But also you see that potentially he is only there for large parts of it because he's getting something that he always wanted out of it. But when I say that, something that isn't, oh, I always wanted a nice car,
Yeah.
something that fundamentally is an amazing thing for him. And I mean, the art throughout is lovely. I love the fact that pretty much in every issue they have, I think it's Paul Azaceta and Jesus Sayers, and Jesus Ayers does kind of now, and Paul Azaceta does the flashbacks, because you are seeing parts of Frank's younger life and where the hand may or may not have had a hand in his life
Yeah,
beforehand. And I found it really refreshing to every sort of, I don't know, 5 or 6 pages to get that art style slightly changed. And then I think I can't remember if it's issue 4 or 5 where most of it is in the past, and then you get Paul Azaceta being the primary artist. But it looks really good, and the Aries storyline is really interesting for me as well, because I kind of was reading a lot when they started to really pump Ares into the Marvel universe and putting him in the Thunderbolts and the Dark Avengers, and then his kind of turn to effectively a good guy rather than a god of war, and having a kid, and they were all great stories. And I must admit, when I heard that, when you said he was the bad guy, I thought, oh, this feels like maybe a cheap step back. No, they did it really well. Like, it's really believable as to why he is doing what he's doing. In fact, he even
yeah,
makes comments, doesn't he? He says, I've tried to be loads of different people, and ultimately, really, I'm this guy. So
yeah.
I'm gonna do wars and stuff. But no, really good. I really enjoyed it, and I will be staying with this for as long as it runs.
I would definitely recommend picking up the war journals. There
Yeah,
will
I
be
did
3
see
of
they were there.
them.
Yeah,
There's 2 on there at the minute because they add a little bit extra to what's going
yeah.
on, but they're not fundamentally important to the story. But it just sort of expands and sort of goes, ah, that's why.
I quite
For
like
a
the
few
idea
bits.
of that. I was reading, I am still reading through the Donny Cates Venom run, and
Yeah,
they do a similar thing where they run Web of Venom, and they are then so far they've been almost a one shot per trade, but like one of them was focusing on some troops that you'd been introduced to in issue 1, and you see kind of where they come from. And then the second one is about Carnage, because the next big storyline they're leading up to is Carnage. And I quite like that, having these ones where you go, I can read this story without it, but this is really nice backstory, expanded story. So yeah, I do plan to have a read of them at some point as well.
yeah. The newer of them is really good because it basically just shows to what ends they will go to get the Punisher.
Yeah.
Anything else this week?
Nothing I'm going to talk about. That sounds really evasive. No, there's a couple of other things that I've read through, but probably save them for later shows.
Mhm. So we shall go into the news.
Then
The
who's
news.
what's up
So
first?
first up is
What happened in the world, Chris? Tell me.
evil corporations cost cutting,
Oh yeah, yeah,
with Comixology being hit by Amazon's massive layoffs. So Amazon as a company as a whole have been cost cutting, looking to drop around 18,000 jobs worldwide. And as part of that,
because they're just not
Comixology,
making enough money, are they?
no,
You know.
they they're not making enough profit.
No.
So Comixology's department is looking to be dropped between 50 and 75% in their staff numbers. We've both said it as soon as Comixology got changed, like last
Yeah,
year, into like the Amazon storefront sort of look.
yeah.
Both of us stopped going on there.
Oh, yeah, it's awful to use now, and it's such a shame because it had been so good to use. So I feel like, I mean, probably they were going to cut some anyway, weren't they? You know,
Yeah,
like when big corporations like this do it. But I think if they've looked at the Comixology side of it and maybe gone, not making the money we hoped it would, I think their decisions bear a lot of responsibility for that, don't it?
yeah,
They've made it less appealing, and also um, I know Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe were available in America a long time before we got them here, but they've had kind of real big worldwide pushes since that time as well. And you know, both of you and I have spoken offline about how both of those apps do have their issues, but they seem to have been working on them and improving them. Whereas, as we say, Comixology went from the forefront to the back of the queue because of
Yeah.
decisions they made. It's a shame because I loved it. It was such a good idea when it came out, and like when Amazon bought them out, I kind of there was a small hope in my head that when oh, Amazon may be able to push. You know, we always talk about expanding the readership. This might
Yeah.
be a really good thing for comics in general, but certainly won't harm comicsology. But yet again, another one of those ones where um, a big company, whichever guys it is, buys out something that's good and makes it more like their other stuff. I mean, like the
Yeah.
Amazon website. Here we go. While we're wading into Amazon, the Amazon website's pull up now as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the good old days when you go on there and you get like recommendations, and they'd actually, and don't get me wrong, sometimes they were a bit cheesy and cheap, i.e., they'd recommend you bought an album, they'd straight away in your recommendations would be every other album that come out that week.
Yeah.
However, you would also get recommendations, it would be based off what other people bought. Now I go to my recommendations and it's just turd. I mean, I don't know what's happened to them. Maybe they just don't care anymore, maybe.
Yeah. I think the problem is with, especially with Amazon, because once they moved Comixology, because spoiler, what I used to do was I used to have it on the work laptop on work because the web
Yeah,
player worked perfectly fine when it was just Comixology. As soon as it went to like Amazon and they did like the whole change into the Amazon storefront bit, you had to have their their Kindle thing. So it all went through Kindle instead of its own platform and never works.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can never get anything to work, or if it does, it'll load 4 pages and then crash. So
It's
it's
that.
that thing. I've got stuff on there, and there's a few bits that I've actually bought on there that I'm never going to be able to read because the
Yeah.
software doesn't work to get it to read it.
Well, it was interesting, wasn't it? Because it also impacted the Marvel app, didn't it?
Yeah,
Because and not the unlimited one, but the one where you would go and purchase your issues on a weekly thing, and it was all linked into Comixology and Amazon, wasn't it? And then the week this happened, the week these layoffs happened, just no one uploaded any of the Marvel issues. So clearly, whoever's job that was got sacked. So I imagine Marvel, and by extension Disney, weren't happy about that. I imagine.
no. Um, into nicer news.
Good
Uh,
news.
Scott Schneider's Night of the Ghoul is being made into a film. His Dark Horse comic has been picked up by 20th Century Fox, or is it just 20th Century now? I don't know if they go by
Yeah,
the
I
full
don't
name.
know.
And not just picked up, is expected to be out by the end of the year. With it being a Fox product, that means that'll be on Disney Plus.
Well,
I know, more money to the
feeding
mouse, but
feeding more to the mouse. Yeah,
but
says us who a primary part of our show is products owned now by the mouse. But
yes. Said I've not heard of the Night of the Ghoul. It's not one I've read
I've not
or
read
even
it. I've not
seen.
read it.
But Scott Schneider, I love his Batman run. And it's horror based, so I'm
I
color
was
me intrigued.
watching. I was watching an interview with him this week, and well, I was watching the interview this week. The interview wasn't this week. I think it was from about a year or so ago, and he was talking about his time on Batman, his time on DC, and he wasn't exactly flaming it, but he was quite honest about a lot of the turmoil that was going on. And I really did get the feeling that if you want to read Scott Snyder stuff going forward, it's going to be self-published, be it through people like Dark Horse or Image or Boom or through his own Substack. I didn't feel like he's queuing up to rejoin the ranks of any big company anytime soon. But I guess I say all that, and money can be quite a leading impact on that, can't it? When someone
Yeah,
backs the truck up with come and write this Batman series for us, it's probably quite hard not to, isn't it? But
yeah. It's one of those. If I reckon though, if he sold the rights for a film, that's enough to keep him tidy for a little bit when he does go off and
yeah,
do his create his own stuff through Substack or little
although,
independents.
although you're right, but I still say when that truck gets backed up to your front door, even if you're really minted and someone says, "Here's a load of ostensibly free money," you go, Yeah, okay. I can park my annoyances for a little while to get this cash.
And the last bit that I have on the news is Invincible is getting a second series. Prime has picked up and confirmed that the second season will be out by the end of the year. I'm believing it's quarter 3 is how they put it on the bit
The
that I read.
the
So,
teaser trailer dropped as well, and I have not watched it yet because I was planning on kind of doing a reaction for the channel, but bloody work got in the way. So, but yeah, there is a teaser trailer up for season 2.
and season 3 has also been greenlit as well before season 2 even comes out, which is always a good sign.
Yeah, and I said to you, I think you've read the first trade, haven't you? And
Yes.
I've read the whole pigging lot. And do I necessarily think they'll adapt every part of it into the show? No, but even if you just stay to maybe some of the bigger Kia story beats, I reckon there's a good five or, and when I say good, I mean really good 5 or 6 seasons there if they want to do it that. But of course, you could shorthand some of it. But really good news, and I do hope that they continue with this and that people watch it because I think that's always the thing with TV, isn't it? Even on streaming services. But um, first season was brilliant. Can't wait for more.
Good, good. So you said you've got some news too.
Yes, kind of linking off of Scott Snyder. So one of the things that I know we both loved in that Batman run was the art, the Greg Capullo art, and
Yes.
also you had your dander up about the very recent Batman Spawn, didn't you? Which also had Greg Capullo art, and it's a
Yes.
little bit of teaser news, but on his Twitter and Instagram, Greg Capullo had put a picture of, let's say, a roughly penciled Wolverine, and then said, "Let the gossip commence." So whether that is just to get fans talking and there really is nothing there, but because he has been primarily Image and then stroke DC for a very long time, and I think years and years and years ago he had said one day he wants to get to Marvel. So I think there's a bit of a hope that maybe this will be Greg Capullo coming to Marvel, and be it Wolverine on his own or something X-Men-y. But yeah, a little tease from the artist there that he may be coming to um, the X universe in some way, shape, or form somewhere down the line.
Mm.
It'd be nice to see,
Yes.
he really did. From an artist that I liked, he really wowed me once he got onto Batman, and I guess I had thought of him as more as the Spawn old school Image style artist, and then some of that stuff he done on Batman. It's just not my socks off. I just think that the guy's a genius, and I'd kind of love to see him have a crack at some of those Marvel characters that we know and love.
Nice. And you said there was another bit that you've got as well.
Yeah, this is kind of a bit more of your generic woohoo, something's coming. But we've talked previously on, I think it was the last solicitations where we talked about the Dawn of DC and
Yes.
the series that come out of that. And this week, Tom Taylor, who is someone I've not read a lot of yet, but hear great things about, and I know he is somewhat of the big name in DC and probably their writer that is getting the most buzz and has been. He announced that he'll be doing a new Titan series, and I guess some of the significance around this is that they won't be having a Justice League for a while. The Titans will be replacing the Justice League as the primary superhero team, I guess, for the DC universe, and it'll have Nicholas Scott on art. And he's been writing Nightwing, who is the leader of the
Yeah.
Titans. So I think, I'm hoping it's a bit of a dream project for him, and I hope it gives him a real push because I love the new Teen Titans and the Teen Titans stuff from the sort of late 80s to early 90s. And there've been loads of usage over them over the years and loads of revivals and sometimes even a bit of this, let's say, mega push to use a wrestling term. But I'm kind of hoping that this time it sticks and that they can, like the legacy heroes, maybe can get to the fore and stay there this time.
Yeah. It said with that, I'm gonna guess it's probably got something to do with the whole massive event that we've got this year of the Dark Crisis, maybe how
So yeah,
the
this is all.
Justice League can't
It,
be there because of
it's all.
whatever happened, and that means that they then push on with
I think the teaser almost is that the Justice League can be there, but they're choosing not to. They're kind of like, we've got stuff going on in our own worlds, but we entrust you to keep
the
the
piece.
wider the
Yeah,
wider universe. Almost, it's your time to shine, kids. And I mean, looking at the dawn of DCs, they've been doing this thing across the issues where they're slowly but surely releasing this image. So it started off as kind of a little bit of like the universe, and then you start to see symbols above, like the Green Lantern symbol, Superman, and things like that. And then slowly but surely, issue by issue, and month on month now, or week on week, so say, they're starting to tease what's underneath. And so you're starting to see things like letters, and I can't remember what um the one under the Batman symbol. I think it was like night terrors or something like that. And I think the idea is that most of your let's say A-list DC heroes are probably going to be having significant events in their own books this year.
yeah.
So let the Titans shine while they're tied up with whatever
Whilst everything
machinations are
else
going
goes
on in
on.
their worlds. Yeah.
Awesome. So we shall go
Oh,
into.
one last
Oh,
story,
oh,
and I
this
found
wasn't
it.
on the one.
Feels I know, but you know, like where on the news they have a cat stuck up the tree style story.
Yeah.
This one just crossed my attention when I had the Titans one up, and I didn't realise. And apologies for anyone who's a non-UK viewer, because this is probably only really relevant to the non-UK viewers here. But on University Challenge this week, there was a question about Gail Simone, the comic book writer. So, like in the bonus round, where you get 3 questions on, and normally it is 3 questions on a Russian politician from 1792 that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
This week it was, here are 3 questions about Gail Simone, the comic book writer. And I just thought, how brilliant that we now live in a world where comic book writers can be questions on University Challenge. And the answer to one of them was Deadpool. So, you know, like, it really, really has got out there when Jeremy Paxman's asking people questions about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So with the solicits this month, the only ones that have been updated were Marvel and DC.
Well, I was going to say, because last ones we did was Feb, and
Yes.
Christmas happened. So Christmas happened around the time when the March ones come out. So we didn't do that because we had Christmas stuff coming out, and possibly almost newsy in itself. The Marvel ones have dropped early for April, and it's early. And there have actually been some rumors that it was early for a reason. They're really trying to drive sales up by getting their solicits out in front of everyone else. So yeah, it is only the Marvel ones we have so far, isn't it?
Yeah, so I was gonna say there's a Marvel and a DC because it was the March DC ones that was on the
Yeah,
list I sent over to you as
yeah.
well. But
But yeah,
with
but they're different months. If that weirds
yeah,
anyone out, and that's what a different months is what I mean.
yeah. So with the Marvel ones, we'll go with there first. There was a couple of things that piqued my interest.
I'm hoping they're the same ones that piqued my interest.
Um, First is the Darth Vader black, white, and red.
Oh,
Because I like what they do with the Deadpool black, white, and red ones. And if you look at my thing on um, Twitter for the reading challenges, I'm always there with the Batman black and whites and things like that. I like these little
very attracted by color or lack of color in
lack
the,
of
in the
color,
case of yeah.
but usually because they're normally 4 or 5 different artists and different writers playing with that character and different art styles, and they usually are limited runs. There's normally a 4, 5, maybe 6 issues,
Yeah.
but it gives people that don't get to play with these toys a chance to do a little story with these toys and draw away and make it look nice and pretty. So yeah, that piqued my interest because I'm just like, ooh, Star Wars versions.
Yeah, I must admit,
Okay.
it hadn't crossed my mind that you would get like outside of the superhero universe versions of these sorts of stories. But yeah, I guess if you got it, why not? If you
Yep.
got the license, use it.
The other one for a quick one is Alien, because I am enjoying the Predator run that Marvel have done. Only 2 issues in because it's behind on the
Yeah,
app, but
yeah.
I'm liking it. So if I like Predator, I'm gonna imagine they'll do the same and do decent with Alien.
So they've been doing Alien. Alien come out way before Predator. I think this is actually the third Alien that they've done in recent times, and I've read part of the first one, and I was enjoying it, but I was actually reading something else, snuck a couple of issues of that in, and then went, "What are you doing? Get back to the thing you was reading. I'll come back to that." But yeah, this is at least the second and possibly the third Alien one they've done in recent times, and so I can only heartily recommend Alien off of the bits that I have read so far. But yeah, I'll drop you the links to the other ones sort of post this because yeah, I think you'll like them.
Yes,
And
and the
also that was on my list as well, and for very much kind of the same reason because you said about the Predator, but because I'd read a bit of the Alien one as well, I
yeah,
thought, okay, yeah, I will come to that, and that reminded me must get back to Alien. So
yes, but the big one, a brand new Guardians.
I'm glad you said that because it was top of my list because it just looks bloody cool, doesn't it?
Yes, um, I didn't read too much on it. I was just like, oh, Guardians one. Looked at the art and stuff, and went, yeah, I think this is going to be a point to jump in again with Guardians and sort of how because I don't know what Marvel are up to, but there seems to be a lot of number ones of long-term franchises recently.
Oh, that's Marvel. They love it.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
do it every 6 to 7 months.
But yeah, no, this one did make me go ooh when I saw it. Um, so yeah, Guardians is the big one that I'm looking at, and I may even go to the shop and get an issue one when it comes out, and then depending on how much I'm liking it, either wait for it on the app for the rest or buy physical ones because I can't upset the good lady too much by having
Yeah.
too much shit in the house.
Can only fit so many singles in the house before it's noticed.
Yeah,
I saw the cover for the, and again, like multiple covers. It's Marvel, of course. There's multiple covers, but I saw the primary cover for it, which hopefully I've shown by now. And that alone was enough to sell me. Didn't even have to read the solicit, but then I read the solicit, and that kind of backed it up. But it was this very much looking like it's going to be in the style of a western, and I'm down for that. Like I know they're the Guardians of the Galaxy, and oft we're used to seeing them flying around in spaceships, but yeah, ground them for a little while. Let's get a story like that. And okay, in the solicitations, there is a bit around. Oh, a mysterious thing has caused the Guardians to disband a year ago. How can they cope? Who will be the Guardians? And it's a story trope I've seen even in the Guardians multiple times, but it it smacked to me of going, I think I'll like this. The two writers are the ones who are writing one of the Captain America series at the moment, and certainly from I haven't read any of the issues yet, but from the reviews, I think that series has been reviewed well. So there's a lot of hope from that side as well of going well. If they're writing already a big Marvel franchise as well, then let's see what they've got, what they can do with these characters. And I say these characters, I guess that's going to be part of the mystery is which
who
characters are we
is?
going to get? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm,
So
I'm down for that. That looks super cool to me.
yeah. So was there anything else for yourself in the
Yeah,
Marvels?
following from a very similar line as you said about the Alien number one for me, and Planet of the Apes number one. I love Planet of the Apes as a franchise, except for the Tim Burton atrocity. But I think that they've been doing from what we've read of Star Wars, and then as I say, the little snippet of Alien, they seem to be doing really well with their movie franchise comics, and they seem to really be hitting a stride with it at the moment. So I'm very much down for whatever they're going to do with Planet of the Apes. I don't know whether it's going to be based off of old Planet of the Apes, please not Burton Planet of the Apes, or the kind of more modern
Where we
ones.
are, yeah.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of similarities between old and what they've been doing recently anyway. But either way, I'm down for this. I'm interested to see what they do with it, where they're picking the story up from, and where they're going to go with it. And that is by David F. Walker as the writer and Dave Wachter as their artist, and neither of them are names that I hugely know. but also
Yeah,
sometimes that's nice, isn't it? Is getting a creative team that you're not
not
so au
had.
fait with. Yeah. And there was also a bit of a nostalgia kick for me. And it's the new, the Adam Warlock series that is releasing, and I think it's a limited series.
I did see that with the old school, like
Yeah,
30s, 40s covers.
and it's the thing that attracts it to me is it is Ron Mars writing and Ron Lim on art, and those guys were doing things like the Silver Surfer back in and around, and to a large part after the Infinity Gauntlet. So when Marvel Cosmic was really, I don't know, at the forefront for me.
Yeah,
And there is that argument about never go back, said about sports managers, like never go back. But I don't know, I'm kind of ready after a very long break to kind of see them do it again and go, what are they going to do back in that world? And the only other thing was, speaking of the Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, who are the ones doing Planet of the Apes, we get the alpha issue of Captain America Cold War, which I believe is going to be the big Captain America crossover between the two series, is releasing this month. Bearing in mind I'm not reading either, so why am I interested in this? I guess it kind of gave me that, oh, I wonder what they're doing with that. And PS, reminder to yourself, Michael, read those Captain America series that have come out and see whether they're any good. But yeah, it just stood out of going, probably a degree of significance in the Marvel universe. Although, as we know, sometimes crossovers don't really do anything beyond the actual crossover, do they? They can get
yeah,
a lot of hype, and then 3 seconds after it's over, everything's status quo's back to normal. But yeah,
yeah.
I'll pick that up and be interested to see what that has to say for itself.
So a couple from the DC collection. One of them is more that I want it in a nice hardback and will look very pretty in the house.
I wonder if you're going to pick the same hardcover that I've got highlighted here.
Sandman: The Overture.
Oh no, 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 it wasn't.
Yeah, it's basically, from what I've read it or on this list, it is a collection from the stuff that happens after the full standard Sandman run. But it's coming out in a pretty hardback collection, and I'm like, I reckon I can get away with having that one because the other half loves Sandman as much as I am.
And
So
also, like when it's one of those lovely hardcovers, you can try and make some sort of claim of going, "Oh, it's a coffee table book." Imagine we are at a dentist surgery and you needed a piece of something to look at. That is what this house now is.
and the other one is, I'm not sure if he's doing all of this run or where he's jumped in on, but I did notice that Ram V is on Detective Comics. With I know he's doing issue 1071. I said I don't know if he's been doing them
Yeah,
recently, and I've
no,
missed this.
he's in and on for a run, but I think maybe the first issue of his run might have just gone on to Ultra, but no, it's a newish thing for him. It looks really good. I'm trying to, unfortunately, I might butcher it slightly, but I'm sure when the kind of on Twitter he was talking about it, I think he was equating it to, imagine like Batman if it was an opera, and that's what he's kind of. And I don't think they're going to be singing, but like as a kind of concept of like the leaning really into like the gothic heavy stuff and things like that. So yeah, I'm very very keen on that.
Yeah, I saw that and was like, "Ooh, I don't know if this is a start point or what," but Ram V
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
Batman.
I mean, I feel like there's. I mean, we've spoken. There's lots of the Batman runs of recent times, sort of sub Tom King and some of the detective stuff, which I really want to get to, and I'm going to have to make a concerted effort to get caught up. Um, but I think this might be a jumping in point for me anyway. I might kind of go, well, in that gap while I'm catching up, I will read this run because I'm planning on doing the same with the Chip Zdarsky run in Batman as well, because that trade comes out February, I believe. So yeah, I think these will be my jumping on modern points while I fill in some of those gaps in between.
But yeah, that was it for me for DC because it was lots of more about Dark Crisis and
Dawn of DC,
yeah,
Lazarus this,
the
Lazarus
rest
that.
that. Yeah,
I think I'm slightly more intrigued by that than you anyway, aren't I? I think we did that when we looked at the February ones. I quite like the idea of a lot of them as some jumping back in points for me and some of those DC characters. But I wasn't going to go too heavy on that stuff because you could get lost in the universe of, and here's another number one, and here's another number one. But one of the things that stood out for me, and this one might surprise you a little bit, but in the hardcovers, is that they're doing an absolute edition of Superman for All Seasons. Now, I've never read Superman for All Seasons, but I do love an absolute edition because they're sexy and they look really good on the shelf. But it's more so the creative team. It's Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, so the same people from Batman Long Halloween.
yeah,
Um, and I have heard really good things about it, but just never got round to it. And I thought, well, actually, if there's one way to maybe experience certainly the art of Tim Sale, it's possibly in the most sexiest, deluxeest hardcover edition of it you ever could possibly get. And there's a few Superman runs out there that I'd like to get to. And in the same way as Long Halloween, because it's standalone outside of the generic monthly issues, it feels like a nice story to experience because it's not quite so beholden to continuity.
yeah,
It can do something possibly a little bit more interesting than maybe we see elsewhere. And no insult to Superman in general. We've done enough insults to Superman in general every time we ever talk about him. But as much as I wasn't going to smash too much into issue number ones, going back to a dude I was talking about earlier, Tom Taylor, and obviously I said about him having the Titans. Well, he's getting a new number one for Adventures of Superman, and it's the John Kent, so Superman's son. And
yeah,
I have yet to read his current John Kent run, but I feel like maybe a new number one is my jumping on point for it, possibly, to give that. I love a writer, as you well know, and there are certain writers that you hear their name mentioned enough and you go, okay, I probably need to read a bit more, get a bit more involved with anything this guy is doing, or girl if it's a girl. And I feel like he's going to be leading maybe the bigger direction for the DC universe for a while. So I guess I should stick my head in and find out. Now, when I say stick my head in and find out, my other pick is another Tom Taylor comic, because it is the One Bad Day Ra's al Ghul, and he's writing that with. I've never been sure how to pronounce his name, but Ivan Reyes, I think it is, who did some great stuff on some Green Lantern things when Green Lantern was really evoking. But I know we said we're going to do One Bad Day when it's all finished, but this was one of the ones when they were first announced that I was instantly interested in, and my interest hasn't waned on it. And I feel like whatever they're going to do across all these One Bad Days, I feel like that might be one of the temple ones, or maybe one of the ones that have got a bit more oomph behind, a bit more.
yeah.
Yes, come on, this is the one. This is the one where we do something dramatic. But
Was gonna say that's gonna be the last one
yeah,
of the eight. Um, I've read the Bane one because that came out last week, and I've got Catwoman there because that came out this week, and I picked it up today. Um, it's the Clayface and the Ra's al Ghul ones that I have very little interest in the character,
oh, what?
but does give me a thing of sort of going, you can do anything with these where you're not going to upset me. So I'm
Yes, yeah,
more there for the story they're
yeah,
going to tell. Whereas, like, if they do a bad on Penguin or if they did a bad on Two Face, I'm more invested in them as a character and what I think they should be doing. That I think that's one of the reasons why the Two Face one, I was like, you've just done nothing with. There was this character you could do so much with. Whereas with Clayface, other than him being in the animated series and the Harley Quinn series, and him being in Nightfall, not really done a lot with
Yeah.
Clayface or read a lot of Clayface. So, that's a character that, because I'm not as invested in, go nuts.
It's
Make me
almost
invest.
that like when you look at like a teen book in the superhero universe, when it's got like one of the or some of the figureheads, you go, well, peril drops a little bit because they're not really going to mess with them too much, are they?
Yeah.
And then when they kind of fill those teams out, or they do a single book about someone who isn't doesn't sell quite so much merchandise, let's go with that.
Yeah.
It gives that writer a bit more freedom, doesn't it, to do different interesting things with it, and possibly wide sweeping changes. I mean, most of the rest of the DC solicits, and I mean this in a really positive way. There's loads of stuff that is released in the March solicits of series that I am already reading and will continue to read, but there wasn't a lot which made me kind of want to pick them out in particular. For me, it was just going to be, yes, I will continue reading these because they are good. There was another number one that I kind of could have picked out, which was the new Doom Patrol, the Unstoppable Doom Patrol. But I've got to be honest, I'm probably not going to read it because I still ashamedly haven't finished the Grant Morrison run of it, which was a long time ago. And I kind of swore to myself that I wouldn't read any more until I got off my arse and finished that. So, as much as it's a new number one, I don't think I'll get there. But there was only one other thing that I kind of wanted to draw your attention to. And I've not read this. I think the first three, maybe four issues are available on Ultra, mate, or maybe it's the first two. But it's GCPD, so Gotham City PD, The Blue Wall. Now, as I say, I've not read it, but I just read in the last week a couple of reviews of it, and the reviews I've read, I mean, if they're to be believed,
Yeah.
it's amazing. But when we'd looked at previous solicits, I just kind of scrolled past it, going, "Oh, well, it's not going to be Gotham Central, is it? So I probably won't bother. It'll be a cheap." But no, apparently it is really, really good. So I think something to maybe put on our radar. So maybe not this specific issue, but maybe this series. Maybe
Yeah.
we should dip in and give it a look.
Have a little look on there.
Have a
Um,
look.
so yes, much more things for us to get into our consumption and somehow try and find the time to read.
I mean, that's kind of the nice thing when we're looking at DC and Marvel, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be like 1 month off on DC, and I can't remember how many months out Marvel are,
I think
but
it's I think it's 3 or 4. I think they're
yeah,
behind.
but at the very least, when we kind of look at those solicits, we know that they are all going to be available for us. But doesn't necessarily mean we'll read everything. So the restriction with DC and Marvel isn't the cost as such; it's the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I said to you when we started to look at the solicits, it's quite nice to feel that way again of going, what exciting things are there on the radar for me in there, and like I said with DC, and probably DC at the moment a little bit more than Marvel, it's nice to kind of go, yeah, am I jumping up and down about, like, so for example, I think Poison Ivy either 11 or 12 comes out, am I
Yeah.
jumping up and down to go, that is a significant issue? No, but I see it in the solicits and go, oh, brilliant, there's more Poison Ivy for
There's
me to
it's
read.
still
So
running.
yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing, especially with that Poison Ivy run. Like I just said, because obviously I noticed it on there that it was on issue 12, and I was like, whoop whoop. That means I've got another set of another 5 issues to go.
Yeah.
Cheers very much.
Yeah, and
Um,
things like I didn't do it in reading corner, but I just started reading Monkey Prince by DC, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't not my socks off. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I scroll down the solicits, and there's a new issue of Monkey Prince coming out in March. So I go, brilliant. Where I can continue reading that on on DC Ultra because there are more issues to come.
yeah, is that one thing, especially with how obviously we're reading stuff with the apps and stuff. Knowing when you're seeing in 2 3 months down the line, there's still issues coming out. It just
Yeah.
sort of like more for me to keep going
Well, and
to
also
visit this
like
briefly.
we would we had and we have somewhat of an earned reputation, don't we, of only reading old stuff.
Yes.
Because there's so much great old stuff to read, and a lot of this stuff is now available to us, whereas it would have been space and cost prohibitive before. But I do quite like the fact that, and probably certainly with DC, this move to Ultra, that I am now starting to add in some of the currently running series as well. So one toe in the past, one toe in the now, which is quite pleasant.
Yeah, it's the thing is, like, what I seem to do, especially with DC, with Marvel more than the DC one, is I will wait until there are 6 issues up and
Oh
then
yeah, God yeah,
read through it 6 at a time. But I am reading stuff from last year now, um,
yes,
and it's the same with like DC. The only one that I'm pretty much on top of is Poison Ivy
yeah.
because I'm
That's
liking that
exactly the same.
so
Yeah,
much. As soon as I see there's a new one,
yeah,
reading that.
yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it just means that I can jump on a lot more of the stuff. It's like there's a new Harley Quinn run. I think the first 4 or 5 have just gone up on DC, and I'm like, yep, that's getting put in the list, and I'll jump into that. So yeah, it is nice to know these things are there, and obviously when we do look through the solicits, there is going to be stuff on Boom or on Dark Horse or Image that we go, oh hello, and then
Yeah.
I go and put my hands in my pocket and go and buy them from the shop, and
Well, and my version of that is, you say about like, so I'd still say I read by the trade paperback or the collected edition. So even though the stuff is on for the DC and the Marvel stuff, like you said, I'll wait till we're 6 issues in, or what is going to be released as a trade is there. Um, but now I am only 3 or 4 months out, so I'm reading the trade. So there's probably only 2 or 3, 4 issues afterwards. And with the Image and the Boom stuff, it does. I'm reading by the trade, but because I'm buying them in trade, so it will be like we said, do a power bomb, which is coming out soon. That I won't buy the singles, but I will buy it as the collected edition when it comes out. Although Image, if you could do something, or Image and Boom, if you could get together and do something akin to DC Ultra or Marvel Unlimited, it would be greatly appreciated,
yes
please.
please, because then I can get
Yeah.
all my back, getting my spawns and things like that, and
Oh, there is. I mean, I've read a lot of Image along the way, but there's a ton I haven't read as well, and I'd love to. And I know that stuff's available for me in trade, but even then, that's where we come back to the cost prohibitive. There is only so much one can buy, and especially when you've only got so much time, I
yeah.
don't really want to buy stuff that's just going to come in and go on the shelf and I'll never get round to it. But yes, a lovely little app that we can do a similar thing to what we do with DC and Marvel. That would be great.
Yes. So we will be back next week. Don't know what we're doing yet because if we have read Last House, Nice House by then, we may do Nice House. If not, it'll potentially be a top 5
Oh yeah.
because
Either way, in the next couple of weeks, you're getting a top five and now Nice House by the Lake. Just in what order it comes is as much of a mystery to us as it is to you right now.
yes. Also coming up soon, because if I say that, it means we have to get on with it. Is Night's End,
Well,
and
we've got till December to do that, haven't we? That's how we did it. Didn't we release it in December in the end?
and also we have some more Sandman coming
Yeah.
because we both need to
It's,
jump
it's
into.
horrible. I don't want to be too mean to Night's End because yeah, I didn't enjoy Night's Quest. See our episode on that, and it's a bit unfair because maybe it really does have a good ending. But I'll be honest. You said Night's End, and a shiver went up my spine. You said Sandman, I went, "Oh, can't wait." So I guess that tells you where I am mindset wise going into it.
But yeah, so they are the few big ones that are
Yeah.
coming soon. Um, Obviously, if you want us to read some major story arc or
He's
or sorry,
overcome
I'm
with
having that.
emotion. He almost died then. That's how much he wants your recommendations. He almost killed himself for them.
So yeah, so like obviously I know we've mentioned that we're doing Infinity Gauntlet at some point this year, but any big tent pole story arcs or runs that you want us to cover, pop them down there.
Yeah. And like the only thing I would say is if anyone's going to recommend anything, consider the length of it. So if you go, I think you should react or review the first 400 issues of the Fantastic Four. It might take us a bit of time to get through them, and it
Probably
might be
not happening.
the longest record we've ever done. But yeah, like some storylines have a very finite amount, but yeah, try to maybe lean into things that we could make a decent site length show out of.
Yes. But as always, like, subscribe, ring the bell, all those things. Get your music on by watching the reaction videos.
Yeah.
And until next time, goodbye.